Hello and welcome to the Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center. My name is Issachar Bey, and I want to thank all of you for tuning in. Thank you so much. If this is your first time, please let us know what city, what state, what country you're listening from. Let us know in the chat. We want to welcome all of you if this is your first time. We are excited about today. We're continuing on our path, more knowledge, more wisdom. I want to thank all of you for your continued support, tuning in every week, helping us share it, get the word out, helping us to expand to our subscriptions. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And also, we ask that you hit the like button. Helps us to raise the algorithm, so we do appreciate that. We want to get right in today. There's a lot that we are covering, and so we are still working on, I call this particular segment that we're in for the last few weeks going forward, I kind of call it a mind therapy, because I believe that it allows us to really restructure, rethink our mindset, to reset our mindsets, to tap into the different ways we can elevate our lives and elevate our minds to change the trajectory of our lives. And so I believe that everybody who's listening to these teachings, who are being able to apply them to their lives, are moving into a sense of greatness, a sense of elevation, and a sense of expansion that will bring you into great possibilities and great manifestations. And so we believe that you can become the best version of yourself. And how do you do that? You do that by knowing who you are, self-awareness, by learning your gifts and your talents, and beginning to serve humanity, beginning to utilize your gifts and your talents. So we thank you so much wholeheartedly, and we thank you so much for everything that you guys are doing. I'm getting the emails, I'm getting the messages of how these teachings and how the Temple of Enlightenment has been a blessing to a lot of you. And so we definitely appreciate you wholeheartedly. I want to get into our spiritual mind treatment. So if you could go ahead and get into a quiet position. Those of you, this is the first time, we like to get into this meditative state before we start any of our teachings, because it allows us to clear the clutter out, to be focused, to be attentive, not only from a physical aspect, from a spiritual connotative aspect as well, because we want to be able to tap in and hear and begin to really take in the information on a whole nother level, so that we can apply it, that we can go ahead and put this thing into practice and begin to start transforming our lives. As you can, go ahead and take a deep breath. Inhale and exhale. Once again, inhale and exhale. And then once again, inhale and exhale. I turn now to the infinite mind, the eternal presence that evolves all life from glory to greater glory. This divine intelligence knows only expansion, only becoming, only transformation. It is the power that turns seed into trees, lava into light, ideas into reality. I know that I am one with this evolutionary force, and I live, move, and have my being within its sacred unfolding. I affirm now that I am in the process of becoming. I am no longer who I was. I am blessed. I am the blessed version of me. But I no longer fit into old shapes, old spaces, or old conversations. I recognize that some cannot hear the voice of transformation because they have not yet left the shell of their former self. And that's okay. I am no longer required permission to fly. I no longer strength to fit the language of limitation. I speak butterfly language. I speak vision. I speak faith, growth, becoming, and beauty. I realize the need to be understood by those who are still learning to believe in wings. I honor their journey, but I do not slow mine to match it. I give thanks that my transformation is sacred, my evolution is divine, and my voice is valid. Even if others cannot translate it, I speak truth. I speak life. I speak in the dialect of my destiny. I release this word into the law, knowing it is already done. I soar in the freedom of spiritual maturity, and I no longer explain my wings to those still wrapped in their cocoon. And so it is, and so it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for tuning in. Please, if you can, go ahead and hit the like button for me. And also, if you have not done so, please subscribe to our channel. I want to thank you and welcome you to the Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center. Today, we're going to be continuing from our series of what I like to call mind therapy. And I want to go to another level today. And I want to speak from the subject, you can't speak butterfly language to caterpillar people. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the butterfly language is a language that only the butterflies understand. And if you are a caterpillar, you don't understand butterfly language. But a lot of times, there's a lot of frustration I see. And the reason I'm doing this, because I see this a lot, that a lot of people who are butterflies are trying to communicate to caterpillars. Ladies and gentlemen, butterflies have a language that caterpillars do not understand. And so I want to get into this today because I got to ask the question, are you a butterfly or are you a caterpillar? There's nothing wrong with being a caterpillar. There's nothing wrong with being a butterfly. But I want you to understand the two and the importance of the two and why this matters now. Why is this an intricate part of our lives in the here and now, in this season? And so if we're going to understand the caterpillar language as opposed to the butterfly language, we have to look at some things here. I want to look into this because I feel like this is something that needs to be discussed. And I'm hoping that if somebody is in the caterpillar season of their life, that something that's said today, something that they hear today, something that they get out of this message will allow them to transform into a butterfly. Yes, it is my intention that if there are any caterpillars listening, that after today's lesson, you transform into a butterfly and you begin to speak the butterfly language. Because there's two different languages. There are two different things. And a lot of us are butterflies among caterpillars. And it can be very frustrating as a butterfly to speak the butterfly language and realize that you are amongst caterpillars. In a town that never looked up, there lived a girl who could not stop dreaming of the sky. Her name was Renee, but most people didn't say it with honor. They said it like a warning label. That's Renee, the one who's always talking about change, destiny, and becoming. To them, she was odd, a little too much. She didn't follow the blueprint. She didn't crawl in line. She didn't believe in limitations. And in a world that worshiped the ground, that made her dangerous, Renee walked with her head lifted, her back as if the clouds were calling her by her name. She journaled in the margins of her math books, painting metaphors where equations should have been. She whispered everything like everything is energy. And I feel like I'm becoming something I can't explain yet. The others rolled their eyes, not because she was wrong, but because she reminded them of the parts of themselves they buried. Renee lived in a world of caterpillars, people who moved in patterns, people who feared the unknown, people who called safety, wisdom, and community and conformity maturity. They didn't mean to be cruel, but they didn't know how to recognize wings. So they kept trying to cut hers down to size. You talk like you're better than us. What makes you think you're special? You need to get your head out of the clouds. Grow up. Get real. This is what they would say to Renee. Their words were heavy, but her soul was light. Still, even light things can get tired of being misunderstood. One day, she stopped sharing her dreams, not because they disappeared, but because she finally realized you can't talk butterfly language to caterpillar people. She went silent, not out of defeat, but for intention. Renee withdrew, not physically. She still showed up at work, still replied with polite smiles, still said, I'm fine, when asked how she was doing. But inside, she had emerged and entered the cocoon. Cocoons are sacred. They don't like the glory. They look like breakdowns, loneliness, confusion, silence. But beneath all the stillness, something holy was happening. Renee was dissolving, not disappearing, but dismembering all that wasn't aligned. The lies, the trauma, the need for applause, the spiritual strengthening, gone. She had begun journaling again, this time to her future self. She said things like, I know I'm being reformed. I trust what's unfolding. Even if no one else sees me, I see me. I don't need their permission to evolve. She wept some nights. Letting go and is never pretty, but she kept whispering, wings are coming. I can feel them. While others went out for drinks and other distractions, Renee stayed home and studied herself. She read sacred texts. She wrote down visions. She learned that her voice was not just poetic, it was prophetic. She stopped arguing. She stopped proving. She stopped asking for seats at the tables where she realized she was meant to fly over. And one morning, with no big announcement, she emerged. Not perfect, not polished, but reborn. Her light was different now. It wasn't for decoration, it was for direction. Her walk, unapologetic. Her eyes, clearer than ever. Her voice, a vibration. She no longer responded to mockery, not because she didn't hear it, but because it could not reach her altitude. Someone from her past tried to remind her of who she used to be, and all she said was, that version of me was a cocoon. This is who I always was. She didn't fight anymore. Butterflies don't fight caterpillars. They fly. The town noticed the same voices that once mocked her now whispered, Renee's changed. She's glowing. She really did it. But Renee no longer needed their validation. She had outgrown the crawl space. She didn't return to explain. She didn't pause to translate. She didn't water herself down to be digestible, because she had learned through every tear and tremble, you can't talk butterfly language with caterpillar people. And now, Renee soars. She lives in the frequency of vision. She coaches other emerging butterflies. She writes letters to the next generation of dreamers, reminding them, your wings will feel strange at first. They'll tremble. They'll be questioned. But you must never fold them just to fit in. Speak your truth, even if it echoes alone at first. Stop trying to be understood by minds committed to crawling. And finally, Renee, you were born to soar, not convince. Leave the crawl space behind. And so we come into this understanding that if you've ever felt out of place, if you ever had a dream too big for your environment, if your spirit has ever whispered, you were made for more, then Renee's story is your prophecy. You're not crazy. You're in a cocoon. And what's coming next is flight. You know, this is a powerful story, because how many of us feel like we're much bigger than where we are? How many of you feel like, I feel like my life should be much more expanded. I should be much more further on in life than I am. I feel like I'm in my mind, I'm so much bigger, and I have so much ambition and go in the go-getter spirit, and just want to experience life, the big experiences of life, than where I am physically in my life. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope that today we break out of the cocoon and we gain our wings and begin to fly like butterflies. When we look at this, we look at this, the caterpillar represents unrealized potential, a soul in the becoming phase before the awakening of a higher identity. It symbolizes the ego-bound self tethered to routines, survival instincts, and the illusion that identifies that your identity is fixed. The consciousness of conformity, it follows the crowd. moves in patterns, and crawls in limitation. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, this is the significance of the caterpillar. And so when you listen to this, sometimes you can feel connected to this because you may be in this position in life. A caterpillar can only move forward a little at a time. This symbolizes incremental growth, not quantum leaps. It consumes constantly, symbolizing a life driven by external gratification, materialism, and more as a substitute for meaning. Also, the attachment to the ground. It is earthbound, unwilling, and unable to see beyond its environment or programming. The caterpillar, ladies and gentlemen. The caterpillar represents the fear of the unknown, the need for validation, aversion to change, resistance to detach, addiction to control, and predictability. See, when you are in the cocoon and you're operating as a caterpillar, you have a different mindset. You are resistant to detachment, which means you want to stay connected. You want to stay on the low ground. You don't realize that you have been created to fly. You don't realize that you were created to soar. And and understand this, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you are around people who are like this. You're around people that need validation. You're around people that fear the unknown. You know what? I wouldn't want to turn into a butterfly because, suppose this happens and suppose that happens. You don't know what's going to happen when you turn into a butterfly. The fear of the unknown. Then you have those who want to control because you're predictable. They know how to control you. They know how to because they know that you are going to stay on ground level. They know that you're not going to be able to move very fastly. You can only move a little at a time. They understand this. And sometimes you have to realize that you are around people who are like this. And remember, you can't speak butterfly language to caterpillar people. So you got to look at what you have, who you are. And and the frustration happens because you can't save everybody. Which means if you are in the caterpillar stage of your life, you have to want to transform into a butterfly. I can't make you. I can definitely give you the support. We can definitely help you, but we can't make you. You have to want that for yourself. And so when we look at the purpose of the caterpillar, it exists to show us that we are not yet what we are destined to become. The caterpillar is not a failure. It is a seed stage. Without the caterpillar, there would be no metamorphosis. It represents the necessary discomfort and confusion before a soul realizes its divine nature. And yes, the caterpillar is not a failure. It's a transformational period. It's at a place where you are evolving and metamorphosizing into becoming a butterfly. But ladies and gentlemen, some people are staying at the caterpillar stage. They have not metamorphosized into a butterfly yet. And so it is my intention that those who are listening can say, you know what, I have been in a caterpillar state of mind. I've been living a caterpillar life. I need to evolve and begin to expand and transform into a butterfly. The butterfly, on the other hand, is the soul that has undergone transformation and has awakened to its divine identity. It is the expression of ascended consciousness, freedom, purpose, and divine timing. The butterfly represents the soul that remembers who it is and refuses to crawl anymore. Why would I crawl when I have wings to fly? When I look at the butterfly, there's certain things that stand out to me. Number one, of course, are the wings. The wings to me would symbolize the manifestation of a spiritual authority and a divine alignment. The flight. Being able to fly symbolizes elevation of thought, faith over fear, and non-attachment to limitations. When you're able to fly and soar, you're breaking the walls of limitation. You're no longer being bound or held down, but you can fly and soar anywhere that you want to go because you realize that you are a butterfly. The next thing also is that the color and beauty represents the soul's radiance once it has embraced its truth and let go of shame. You know, a caterpillar stays in the cocoon. It stays hidden. It stays hidden. It doesn't want to be seen. But when you have elevated to the butterfly, you're ready to soar. You're not afraid of showing who you are. You are not afraid. You will move in elegance and begin to sell and let everybody know that, yes, I have arrived and I'm here. I'm supposed to be here. Butterflies feed on nectar and bring life wherever they land. This is symbolic of a person who now feeds on higher vibrations of truth and spreads light and transformation to others. You know, when you start operating as a butterfly, everything in your life begins to change because you're able to see things at a higher level. You can see the world and everything in your life from a different level than you could see as a caterpillar because you're on the ground level. But when you expand and elevate to a butterfly, you're able to move and grow to a level that surpasses what you have known before. And there are many gifts, I believe, that come into play when you elevate and transform into the butterfly. I believe you get intuition, led living, purpose-based decisions. You get detachment from validation, and you get alignment with the divine flow. The butterfly, to me, is to remind the world that transformation is not only possible, it's inevitable. When the soul surrenders to its highest blueprint, the butterfly carries the message of rebirth, resilience, and elevation. I'll say that again. The butterfly carries the message of rebirth, resilience, and elevation. That moment of rebirth says, I'm no longer the old person anymore. I'm the new me. I have become the best version of myself. Remember, the caterpillar is not wrong. It's just not finished. Evolution demands we die to who we were to give birth to who we truly are. That death happens in the cocoon of surrender, the womb where the soul sheds its programming and reclaims its wings. We don't condemn the caterpillar, we graduate from it. We don't argue with those who can't understand your wings. You fly away. And when the time comes, you bless your cocoon becomes because without that sacred darkness, you never would have remembered your light. You never would have remembered your light. You know, this story to me, this teaching is powerful. A simple story about a butterfly and a caterpillar is very powerful to me because we can see the ideologies, we can see the metaphors here of the two simultaneously connecting to each other. You can't have a butterfly without first having a cocoon and being a caterpillar, and vice versa. And so I think that it's imperative that we make a discovery here right now. Where am I in my life? Am I the caterpillar or am I the butterfly? When we started the story, there was something very interesting, and I want to get into the story. The story starts off and it says, in a town that never looked up. The town never looked up, which signified to me that this was a town that were full of caterpillars. They never looked up. They never had a thought of elevation. They never had a thought of looking up, of shifting their level of consciousness, which means that these were caterpillars. This was a caterpillar town. Renee's divine disruption was not rebellion, it was remembrance. The cost of being born with sky-coated DNA in a world addicted to crawling. When you understand what it means to be a winged one and a world full of caterpillars, it can be very difficult because nobody understands you. Remember, she was in a town where no one looked up. No one will begin to understand her soaring and flying because everybody was always connected to the ground. When you understand the anatomy of a butterfly, you understand that there are signs that your calling disrupts others. It takes them out of their comfort zone. When you're in the cocoon, you're in a comfort zone. But if I transform into a butterfly now, it makes it very difficult now because I'm letting you know that there's something beyond who you are now. There's always this intention of always dreaming beyond your environment. Ladies and gentlemen, no matter where you are in life, always know that you can always go higher. You can go deeper. You can go to the next level. You can go beyond where you are now. So there's always a deeper depth, a higher height that you can go to. And sometimes when you understand the anatomy of the butterfly, you understand that caterpillars generate fear and they play the safe survival. They don't want to go against the grain. They don't want to say, hey, I'm going to step out and begin to really move into who I am and really step into my destiny and my purpose. They kind of say, oh, no, we'll play it safe. I don't think we should do that. I think we should stay here. Very limited. They have a mind of great limitation. And sometimes you realize that your limitation starts in the mind. when you're in that cocoon, when you're in that season of your life where you're in the cocoon and you're the caterpillar, there is a sense of limitation. And you have to be able to understand that as I transform into a butterfly, I strip my mind and I strip myself from that limitation because I'm no longer limited anymore. I'm unlimited. There's nothing that can stop me or hold me because I'm unlimited. When was the first time you felt different? Because when you make that transformation and you evolve into a butterfly, you begin to feel different. What dreams have you silenced to be accepted? Because on your job, in your family, you may have felt like nobody understands you. You may have felt like there's something different about me, and in order for me to fit in, I have to play like everybody else is playing. So I have to silence my dreams. I have to silence my wanting to soar and fly. I have to tuck my wings because I want to fit in with the caterpillars. Who do you become when you're alone? When you're by yourself, are you able to really step into who you are, or do you still stay in that caterpillar mind frame? You have to tell yourself these things. I was born to disrupt the blueprint of limitation. My sky calling is louder than their ground opinions. I no longer strength to soothe discomfort. My voice is sacred. My walk is divine. Elevation is my assignment. I honor what I carry, even when it's misunderstood. You're going to be misunderstood, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Because when you become a butterfly, you can't hang and speak with caterpillars. They won't understand you. They don't speak the language. And so the frustration comes in is because as a butterfly, there may not be too many butterflies with you. And so, ladies and gentlemen, you may have to be by yourself sometimes. You may have to be alone. And a lot of us, instead of learning how to do that, we would rather conform and go back to be around the caterpillars because we want to be accepted, because we want to fit in. And you have to understand that you were created to soar and to elevate and to grow, not to dumb yourself down to fit in. If anything, you should be pushing those who are caterpillars to break out of their cocoons and transform into butterflies. Renee's withdrawal wasn't escaping. It was an initiation. That's why divine silence is always louder than earthly noise. When you understand the significance of your metamorphosis, everybody who's listening to me right now, in life, you're going to go through a metamorphosis. Everybody has to go through the cocoon phase. In order to become a butterfly, you have to go through the cocoon phase. Let me break down the 4 stages of the cocoon. There's the breakdown. There's the disillusion. There's the reformation. And then there's the emergence. the breakdown. When you understand breakdown, disillusion, reformation, emergence, you understand that these are the different stages that take place in the cocoon. This is how you get into the metamorphosis of being able to transform your life. Yes, you have to crawl before you walk. And so in this cocoon stage, I'm learning about myself. I'm learning about how life is. I'm learning these certain things because I'm understanding how to become a better version of myself. I'm understanding that this cocoon phase is only a process. It's not a lifetime longevity. It's not my final place. This is only for a season. But what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is some of us have stayed in that season too long. You stayed in the cocoon too long, and it's time for you to transform and to begin to spread your wings and begin to transform into that butterfly. Remember, the cocoon teaches us fear. It teaches us to stay limited because we're going through the motions and we have not been giving all the information. We haven't been given everything that we've learned, everything that we can see, everything that we can evolve into. And what happens is, we've seen it in the story with Renee. When you are a butterfly and you hang around cocoon people who are caterpillars, they don't understand. Oh, she thinks she's better than us. Oh, she thinks she's better than everybody here. Oh, she just thinks she's all wonderful. Why? Because they don't understand who you are. They can't fathom that in their minds. Their minds are so limited to where they are, they don't realize that they can be where you are and that they can evolve into that. You have to ask yourself the question sometimes. What did I falsely believe I needed to survive? Sometimes in the cocoon, we have this notion of what we thought we needed in order to survive. What have you let go of that made you feel lighter? Because you realize that you're holding on to fear, you're holding on to um, lack, loss, limitation. You have to ask yourself, what did I hear in silence? What version of myself is dissolving right now? Who will you no longer be 30 days from now? Ladies and gentlemen, 30 days from now, who will you no longer be? Who? Who will you no longer be 30 days from now? Somebody's listening to me right now and saying, all through my life, I've been crawling. I've always been thinking negatively. I've always been trying to live safe. I've always been living in fear and lack and limitation, and I'm tired of it. I know I've been in this position too long, and now I want to transform into a butterfly. I'm ready to spread my wings and soar. The story says Renee emerged not perfect, not polished, but reborn. Ladies and gentlemen, you can be reborn today. You can spread your wings and begin to soar as a butterfly. Your rebirth does not need an announcement. It reveals itself. See, when you become reborn and you begin to soar and spread your wings, things happen, ladies and gentlemen. Because when you spread those wings, you begin to fly. You begin to elevate. And once you elevate, everything in your life begins to shift. Remember, alignment is the secret of success. As you elevate your level of consciousness, everything in your life begins to shift. As you elevate, as you go higher in life, that's why I call these series mind therapy. As we elevate our levels of consciousness, it's impossible that our life doesn't shift with it. Because if my mindset and my consciousness shifts, everything in my physical reality has to shift. We talked about this when we did the talk on Help Me. My life is falling apart. When life is falling apart, understand your thoughts, your mind, everything inside of you is falling apart. And so we go into the mind to put everything back together again. The same thing here. When you're reborn, you don't announce it. It just reveals itself, because as you elevate, so everything in your life will begin to move along with that. Renee's voice moves from poetic to prophetic. And that's how elevation changes its expression. Being understood is going to always be part of your purpose. And understanding you're not needing to be validated. You don't need anybody to validate you. You don't need anybody to co-sign for you. You don't need anybody to say anything. You can validate yourself. When you begin to soar and begin to move on in life, you need no validations. All you need to do is begin to understand who you are and understand that divine timing aligns with my authentic identity of who I am. If we're going to be reborn today, ladies and gentlemen, some of you are going to be reborn. Some of us may have been operating as a butterfly already. And maybe you needed this as a motivation because maybe you're stuck and you needed to get back into the grind of things. But those of you that are being reborn, you need to write your old self an obituary. And begin to start putting down the things that you want to manifest, the things that you want to move into. Most of us who are operating at the butterfly status, you become frustrated in life because instead of being amongst other butterflies, you still want to be around caterpillars. And you can't speak butterfly language to caterpillar people, ladies and gentlemen. You got to ask yourself a question as you're going through the rebirth of being transformed into a butterfly. Why did I pretend to be? Who did I pretend to be so that others wouldn't leave me? Because, we need that validation. We need that attention. We need that recognition. So a lot of us will pretend to be somebody else because we want all our friends. We want to be the popular one in the group. We want to feel the love from the group. We want to feel the love from the other caterpillars. So we feel like we got to be somebody and pretend to be somebody who we're not. You got to ask yourself, what makes you feel alive? What makes you feel full, free? What makes you feel alive? What part of me is trying to resurrect that needs to stay behind? What part of me? Because see, listen, when you transform from a caterpillar to a butterfly, there's some things that need to be left in the cocoon. You don't need to take everything with you. What are you ready to do even if no one claps, if no one applauds, if no one looks at you, if no one gives you any recognition? What are you ready to do? Who are you without the need to be understood? Because one of the greatest deliverances in life, I believe, is the deliverance of other people's opinion. We always have a problem with always giving light or giving recognition to what people think about us. And when you get delivered from that and you don't worry about what other people say about you, it's one of the greatest deliverances you could ever face in life. To not give a damn about what anybody says or thinks about you. The only thought that matters is the thought you have of yourself. I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter what people call you. The only thing that matters is what you answer to. The same thing. It doesn't matter what people think about you or what they say about you. It only matters about what you think and say about yourself. You are a butterfly, and you were sitting up here worrying about what caterpillars are saying about you. You're worrying about what these caterpillars are saying and thinking about you when you're on a whole nother level. You have already transformed. You have to come to a place where you can say, I no longer apologize for existing in my fullness. I am not here to prove anything. I'm just here to be. My glow doesn't need permission. I walk in the identity of my ascended self. I am not returning to what I had to heal from. Now listen, Renee did not come back to the caterpillars to explain what happened. She came back as evidence that if you transform from the caterpillar to the butterfly, this is what happens. I want you to see the evidence, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not coming back to show off. I'm not coming back because I think I'm better than you. I'm not coming back because you're beneath me. You're lower than me. I'm better than you. I look better than you. I'm smarter than you. I have more than you have. I'm not coming back to throw it in your face. I'm coming back to show you that if I did it, I know you can do it too. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, ladies and gentlemen. And so if it happened for one, it could happen for all. Caterpillar minds can't decode butterfly movements. They can't. They don't understand it. It's distant. It's foreign to them. It's like a whole different language. They can't understand it. That's why ascension often triggers those who refuse to evolve. So like Liz, we have people who are caterpillars who don't want to evolve. They don't want to turn into a butterfly. And so they would never understand who you are. They would never understand. And sometimes you have to, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you have to tell them, I love you, but I won't lower my wings to match your crawl. I love you. Dearly I do. I love you wholeheartedly. But I will never lower my wings to match your crawl. I can't do it. You have to look at this, ladies and gentlemen, from a different perspective. When you move into a butterfly status in life, life is just different. You see things differently. You have a freedom that you can evolve and move around that you couldn't when you were as a caterpillar stage. You begin to see things differently. You have to ask yourself a few questions when you first transform into a butterfly. You got to ask yourself, who have I outgrown? And what keeps me tied to them? Because sometimes you can still transform into that butterfly, but there may be some people that you were still attached to as a caterpillar. You have to realize that you're on a different stage in life. They can't go where you are. So either you can come back and tell them, hey, look, guys, you can transform into a butterfly. And if they don't want to transform and if they don't want to evolve, unfortunately, you will have to separate from them because they can't go where you're going. You have to ask yourself, the conversations that I'm having, do they benefit me? Yes or no? What version of me do they expect that no longer exists? What would it look like to fully project my flow and my glow, to flow in life, to be able to flow and just move in who your purpose and your destiny is? But when you get into the butterfly status, you also have a glow about you. These are the questions. You meet nobody in this world but you. And so, although you have physically transformed into a butterfly, you have to understand where you are mentally too. You can't still be trying to connect to the caterpillars. It's okay to come back and say, hey, look, guys, this is evidence of what you can become and how you can transform. But if they don't want to evolve and they don't want to transform, you can't take everybody with you. And it may be very difficult because it's people that you love. But if they want to stay in the caterpillar status, then there's nothing you can do about that. You have to be able to tell yourself, I do not translate myself for limited minds, for people who live in limitation, for people that live in lack, loss, and limitation. I can't dumb myself down. I can't try to water myself down for you. My presence is not up for debate. My elevation isn't arrogance. It's alignment. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. When you elevate as a butterfly, I don't care if they think you're conceited. I don't care if they think you're arrogant. You don't have to let them know. I'm letting you know that that's alignment, but you don't have to explain yourself to anybody because they don't understand butterfly language. And that's where the problem is, ladies and gentlemen, is that butterflies should not be talking to caterpillars. When Renee went back, she didn't go back to throw it in their face that she was a butterfly. She went back and just showed them that, yes, you can transform into this. I don't need to say anything. I just want you to know that this is the evidence of what happens when you transform from a caterpillar into a butterfly. You must have it in your minds, ladies and gentlemen, that I leave the crawl space and never return. I'm never going back to becoming a caterpillar. And you must always declare that my wings speak louder than my words ever could. My wings speak louder than my words ever could. Now Renee soars. Her life became a letter to the next generation. Why your transformation is always a permission slip for somebody else. Because you're showing somebody else that, listen, if I can do it, you can do the same thing. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, ladies and gentlemen. Flight isn't just for you. It's for every Renee watching in silence. Prophetic leadership, led by vibration, not explanation. Turn your journey into mentorship without attachment. Yes, go back and help those. Try to help those that want to evolve, that want to transform. You have to ask yourself questions. And the reason why I keep emphasizing asking yourself questions is because when you talk to yourself, it's a form of self-therapy. It's a form of self-evaluation. It's a form of self-analysis. Who was I before the world told me who to become? What legacy am I building with my new truth as becoming a butterfly? How can I teach without shrinking? That's very important. How can I teach people how to become a butterfly without going back to the old methods of thinking of a caterpillar? What's one message I must leave behind? Who are the Renees I'm assigned to activate? Everybody listening to me right now, you know a Renee. You know somebody who's a Renee. Somebody who's getting ready to transform from a caterpillar into a butterfly, and you need to help them because you've already evolved. There may be some Renees here now who are transforming from a caterpillar into a butterfly. I want you to know that your life is a map for those who are still dreaming. Let them know that you're not their savior, but you are their mirror. Let them know that you soar in purpose and plant in love. Let them know that you lead by frequency, not by force. Let them know that your wings are not for decoration. They are for direction. Renee, you were born to soar, not to convince. Leave the crawl space behind. And now, so were you. Let them whisper. Let them wonder. You are the wind's answer to every silent caterpillar still wondering if their wings are possible. Don't fly for applause. Fly because it's written in your soul's contract. Fly because crawling is no longer capable with your becoming. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for tuning in. I think this was a phenomenal story, a phenomenal teaching. I want to advise you and summon you to make the transformation. If you're in a caterpillar stage of your life, begin to evolve and transform into a caterpillar and begin to spread your wings and soar. We speak it into existence, and so it is. I want to thank all of you. If you know somebody that's in a caterpillar stage, if you know somebody who's transformed into a butterfly stage, and you want to share this message, go ahead and hit the share button. Copy the link, email it to them, text it to them. Let them know they need to hear this. They need to transform. I want to also thank all of you. If you could hit the like button, and if you haven't done so, subscribe. We are forever grateful for your involvement, for your commitment to this cause and to this organization. If you want to sow a seed or donate to this organization, there are 4 ways that you can give. Those 4 ways are Cash App, which is going to be $TOESC. Once again, that's Cash App, that's $TOESC. The second way is going to be, the second and third way are going to be Zelle and PayPal. Those are the 2 ways you can give with our email, which is going to be info, INFO, at TOESC.org. That's going to be info at TOESC.org. And then also Venmo. Those of you that want to give by Venmo, I want to speak it into existence that our Venmo is going to be Issachar Bey, ISSACHARBEY at gmail.com. Once again, that's going to be Issachar Bey at gmail.com. Listen, I want to speak it into existence that those of you that are sowing the seed, that are donating to this ministry, we speak it into existence that you receive a 100-fold return, and that everything you touch will be made manifest and will be made successful in this season. We speak it into existence, and so it is. Listen, I want to move into this new paradigm, this new shift. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in the middle of the year. We're at the middle point. We're at the middle mark. This is no greater time than the present for you to make the transformation, to transform from being a caterpillar into a butterfly. Listen, once you transform, I want to let you guys know you cannot speak butterfly language to a caterpillar. I want to thank all of you for tuning in. I want you to know this one thing. Your destiny is not a matter of chance, but it's a matter of choice. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.